So I think we should restart.
Just before starting, Ines, okay, so just to remind you that we will launch in some specific part some polls that will allow you in a very short period of time, so a few seconds or so, to answer to the questions that we'll put there, and just in order for you to follow the topics that we are discussing.
Yeah, so now in this part, I'm sorry if you see the comments popping up, but I'm sharing the whole screen. So I hope it doesn't bother you. Um, in this last part, um, we'll ask you something very hard of you. We want you to pretend that you are 10 years old, okay? So let's go back to when we were 10-year-olds, no worries. And we will show you a sort of workshop that we sometimes do in schools to introduce our organization and what we do. And now what we are going to do is we are going to solve a mystery while learning computer science. So we are going to use computer science knowledge to solve a mystery. And what is the mystery? So I don't know if you've been paying attention to the recent news, but someone kidnapped Cristiano Ronaldo in Saudi Arabia. He was kidnapped, and we need to find out who it was. Who's guilty? And we are going to show you a picture which has lots of people, and the guilty person, the person that kidnapped Ronaldo, is in that picture. And the goal is to find out who it was. So we are cops, we are detectives, and we want to find out who kidnapped Cristiano Ronaldo. Okay, so who was it? That's the question, and we need to find out. So let's take a closer look at this picture and try to identify what objects can give us clues. So if you want to use the chat to comment who you think is guilty, or what are the hints that the picture has, where should we look, what should we do, please feel free to comment. Um, so there are several elements. We have people, we have food, but there are two things that pop out. And one of those things is the pattern that the lamps on the street exhibit. Like some of them are on, others are off. Let's take a closer look, shall we? So we are going to talk a bit about binary representation of information. We have already addressed a little bit we have already addressed this issue a little bit, but now we are going to go deeper into it. So, what is a computer? Well, it's just a machine that does things for us, if we ask it politely. But a computer only knows what is a 1 and what is a 0, as we already said, because computers are made of very small pieces called transistors, which can be on or off, basically. They're like a switch. And so a computer only understands what is a 0 and what is a 1. Now, going back to the picture, can you identify something that can be associated with zeros and ones? Where are zeros and ones here? So we said that we would need computing knowledge to solve the mystery, right? And there are several possibilities, but we are going to observe the pattern on the lamps, okay? And so we can do the following association. We can represent a lamp that is off by 0 and a lamp that is on by 1. Just tell me something. When someone comments, do you see it on my screen? Luis?
Yeah. Yeah, the comments, yes, yeah, sometimes, yes. But don't worry that I'm answering to everything that is appearing here in the chat. So
Yes, it's just that it kind of covers the. Maybe I will stop sharing and I will share only the PowerPoint.
okay,
So just a
okay.
second. Otherwise, you might be annoyed, and I don't want you to get mad at me or be annoyed. So, okay, share window. And I believe.
Yeah,
Okay, so now you just see the PowerPoint,
yeah, that's
correct?
right. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, so we are going to represent a lamp that is off by 0 and a lamp that is on by 1. So now we can look again at the sequence of the lamps, right, on the street, and we will reach a binary sequence, right? So we can only see 8 lamps. However, in that street, there were 64 lamps, okay? 64 lamps. We can only see 8 of them, but it's like a long road with 64 lamps. And if we start writing the corresponding binary sequence, we get a sequence with 64 zeros or ones, which are called bits, okay? A 0 and a 1 is called a bit. So we get this long sequence of 64 lamps. But what does this binary sequence represent? Like, what is this? Can somebody understand what these zeros and ones are saying? I can't, but I can tell you that this sequence hides an image with the next clue. And it actually is very surprising how computers do so much with so little. With only a 0 and 1, by combining zeros and ones, we can represent on a computer images, videos, sound, text, everything you may imagine. And so how are we going to transform this into an image? How will this yield a picture? Well, let's talk about representation of images by bitmaps. So, by looking at this smiley picture, it should be clear how we do it, and Professor Zenon already talked a bit about this. So we can say that if a pixel or if a little square is white or not painted, then we say that square represents a 0, and a black or blue or colored pixel represents a 1. Okay, and these rectangles of zeros and ones are called bitmaps, and they allow us to represent an image. Of course, this image has only 2 colors. If it had more colors, we would have to combine more zeros and ones, but that's good enough for us. So what are we going to do? We are going to take that sequence of zeros and ones, and we're going to put that sequence in an 8 by 8 grid with a binary sequence associated, okay? And how we do this? So imagine you start writing this sequence as if it was, as if you were reading a text. So we start from the top and we write one number in each little square. So 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. And then we move on to the second line and we continue writing. And after writing all of that, we will get a picture. Okay, we will get a picture, and now we are going to launch a poll for you to tell us what picture it is. Okay, so this is the first activity, mission number 1. Okay, identify the image that we obtain from the bitmap. So Louise, if you could please launch the poll, we
Yes,
will ask you to answer it.
yes, you should now see the poll in front of you, and you should please choose among A, B, C.
Yeah, you can answer
You can,
directly in the poll.
yeah, that's right. You choose your answer and then submit, please. Yeah, okay. We have 70%, 69% with the right answer.
Sorry, can I just make an observation?
Yes.
You know, you've got the polls, it's covering the two center bitmaps.
Yeah. Let me show you. Yeah, let
So
me show
you
you
can't see the
a
bitmap.
trick. Yeah, let me show you a trick. So I'm going to share my whole screen, okay? So you can see what you should do. So here I have Teams and it appears and it kind of covers up the middle, which is awful. So the best thing to do is close and then you click here on when it's where it says polls and it will appear here on the right. And now when I share my screen, you are going to see this on the right, okay? The poll on the right and the screen here in the middle. So please close it and then open it on the right. So I'm going to share again the PowerPoint. Okay. Okay. So I believe that if you close it and then open polls, you should see it on the right and you should be able to see everything
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's right. And should you should do that for all the polls that will appear
Yeah, for all
after
the
this.
polls because
Yeah.
it's important that you see both things at the same time. Okay, so most of you answered correctly. Okay, the correct option is C if you pay close attention. Um, but now the question is, what does this mean? Okay, so this is the correct answer. Okay, but what does it mean? What are we representing here? Can anybody understand what is represented here? I can give you a hint. This is made of two letters. And the second one is not an A.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so we've
Beatrice.
got a
Yeah.
right answer. It's QR, okay? The second one, I know it looks like an A, but it's an R. It has that little leg. Okay, so QR. Um, since this is QR, what do you think the next clue will be? Did anybody remember? Does anybody remember the original image with the suspects? So let's recall it. What is our next clue? Where should we look at? Exactly, the QR code. That's correct. You are very clever. So let's take a look into the QR code. But I warn you, it won't work if you take your phone and point to it. The phone won't be able to read it, okay? Because this is a special QR code. It's a little simpler than the normal QR codes. And we are going to discover what it means by hand, not using our phone, using our brain, which is way more fun. So, you are more than familiar with QR codes. QR codes are everywhere. You probably use them to pay stuff, to look at information, to share information with other people. So QR codes really are everywhere. This is simpler than the real QR codes. It's a little smaller. It has less little squares. So we call it Insico QR. And in classes, we teach our students to how to decipher it, okay? How to find the information that it encodes. Those three big squares on top and one is on the bottom, they are called the eyes of the code, and they are kind of there so the phone knows where the code begins and where it ends, so to realize its dimensions and also to figure out what is the correct orientation. because even if it's tilted like upside down, your phone can still read it. Not this one, but a real QR code. Um, and the gray areas, they don't really matter. They contain information reserved for the reader, but they don't really contribute to the message that's being sent. So the important part is this one here. And our QR code is divided into 13 zones. And if you look closely, you realize that each zone consists of 4 black or white squares. These zones can either be a square or a rectangle. For instance, zone 1 is a square, zone 7 is a rectangle. But no matter the shape, they still have 4 zeros or ones. Okay? So we are going to do the following association. A black square is going to be represented by a 1, and a white square is going to be represented by a 0. Okay? So now we can turn this black and white picture into a code with zeros and into a picture with zeros and ones, right? And if we do that substitution, we obtain this. If it's black, you write a 1. If it's white, you write a 0. And now we can assign a binary code to each zone, a binary sequence. And how will we do that? So if we have a zone which is a square, we will read it as in the picture. It should say order. It's in Portuguese. So in Portuguese, order is ordem, which is what's written there. But it means that you read the numbers by that order. Okay? So the first one is the top on the left. The second one is the top on the right. The third one is bottom left. And the last one is bottom right. So the binary code that is associated to the zone, for instance, is 0010. That's the order. We read it like if it was a text. So it's the most intuitive way possible. Of course, we could read it some other way, but we will establish this convention that this is the order we want to use. And what about rectangular zones? So if it is a vertical rectangle, we read it from top to bottom. And if it is an horizontal rectangle, we read it from left to right. Okay, so here the zone that is delimited in red is 0010, and the green one, the code is 1100. Got it? Let's see if you really got it. So, activity 2, mission number 2, we will ask you to identify the 4-bit binary codes of some zones. And in that activity, there are actually 3 questions. So you should answer all 3 questions. Perhaps I should share the entire screen. So,
Yeah. May I
Luis,
launch
can you
the poll?
please launch the poll?
Yes.
Yeah, you may launch the poll.
Okay. Poll launched.
Wait, there's no picture, right? Okay, so sorry.
No.
I will share the PowerPoint. Sorry, I was confused. Okay. So we'll ask you to identify the binary codes of some zones. All right.
Yeah. The first one is zone 4.
Yeah, so zone 4, where is it? So it's a rectangular zone, okay, which is right above the right eye, below the right eye. And so you just need to identify the code in zone 4. And then you have some other questions for other zones.
Should then you have 3 pages on the poll to answer. Okay. So the second page, you are you have zone 9. And then on page 3, you have zone 10. Yeah, zone 10 is over there. Okay, so if you see the image on the left, you can see zone 10. That is that rectangle in vertical.
Yeah, zone 10 is a vertical rectangle.
So the numbers of the zones, in other ways, on the left image. Yeah, and again, please submit your answers on the poll.
Yeah, I think we can start revealing the answers because we are running out of time.
Yeah.
So zone 4, the binary code in zone 4 is 0100. Okay, 0100. Then the binary code in zone 9 is 1011. Okay, and everybody got this one right. Congratulations. And with 72% of correct answers, we have the final question, the binary code in zone 10, which is 0101. Okay.
Yeah, correct.
So it's more fun if you actually do these on a paper, and when we have like real physical flesh and blood students, they do this with their little pencils and their little hands. But we need to do this with polls using Teams, so it may not be ideal. But thank you so much to everyone who is answering and participating. And most of you are getting the answers right, so we are one step closer to solving the mystery, okay? Now the next question is, what is the meaning of these binary codes? Like, what does 1000 mean? Or 0010? How are we supposed to know what is this? And actually, each binary code is going to represent a letter of the alphabet. Notice that I keep saying represent because we're talking about data representation, okay? Data structures and all of that. The way we represent information, the mathematical model that we use to represent information is really important. Not just the code, not just the programming part, okay? Everything is important. In particular, the way we think and the frame we put in a problem, okay? So now we will associate binary codes with letters. And how are we going to do that? We will talk about binary trees and binary encodings. Okay, so we are going to keep things simple and play a bit with our friends' binary trees. Okay, we could use ASCII and UTF-8, yeah, of course, but we're going to make it simpler. So if the alphabet consisted only of the letters A and B, it would be easy. We could say, okay, just represent A by 0 and B by 1. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, okay? But to represent more letters, we need this tree to grow. We need more branches. So what we do is we are going to split each branch in two. And whenever we have a branch to the left, we write a 0, and a branch going to the right represents a 1. So for instance, letter A here as the binary code 00, letter B as the binary code 01, letter C 110, and letter D 11. We kind of start at the top and we follow the path of zeros and ones until we reach the letters. Okay? Now we are representing 4 letters by using 2 bits for each letter. But the alphabet has 26 letters, so we're still a bit off. What should we do next to get more codes for more letters? Well, we repeat the process. We go to each branch, okay? We go to each branch and we divide it in 2. So we are going to our tree is growing, okay? And so we obtain binary codes for 8 letters, okay? From A to H. So we started with only 2 letters and 1 bit. Then we moved on to 4 letters with 2 bits, and now we have 8 letters with 3 bits. So each time that we extend our tree, the number of letters we can represent doubles, okay? So we multiply that number by 2. Now, for instance, what is the binary code of letter A? Well, we just follow the path, and it's 0, 0, 0. And what's the binary code of E? We just follow the path, 1, 0, 0. And G, for instance, is 1, 1, 0. H will be 1, 1, 1. So we just go along our little paths and we get the codes. Now, so we now have another activity. So because our QR code, in each zone of our QR code, we have 4 bits. So 4 zeros or ones. And with 4 bits, we can represent 16 letters, okay? So it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, 16 letters. And so in this activity, Luis, you can launch the poll. We will ask you to identify the binary codes of some letters.
Okay, poll launched.
So the first letter that you are asked is letter A. Okay, so what is the 4-bit binary code associated with letter A? Then you should answer what is the 4-bit binary code associated with letter F. Okay. And last but not least, the 4-bit binary code associated with letter P.
So you have 3 pages once again.
Yeah,
in
once
order for you
again,
to
3
reply
pages,
3
3
answers.
questions. Okay, I guess we already have some answers.
Yeah.
And I will reveal the correct answers. So the binary code associated with letter A is 0, 0, 0, 0, and 96% of you got it right. Congratulations. Then the binary code associated with letter F is 0, 1, 0, 1, and all of you got it right. And finally, the binary code associated with letter P is 1111, and 93% of you got it right. Okay, so you are very good students. I think I will give you an A after this webinar. So if there are no questions, we can move on. Yeah, so here are the answers. I already said what they were, so I'll move on. So now note that we can't represent all the letters using codes with only 4 bits, okay? We can only reach 16 letters. However, if we use 5 bits, we can represent 32 things. And since there are 26 letters in the alphabet, 5 bits would be enough to represent all letters of the alphabet. in our QR code, each zone has 4 bits. So this is good enough. These are our binary codes. No trouble. So now we are finally ready to decipher the Seco QR code and find out who kidnapped Cristiano Ronaldo, okay? Because we have the binary codes of each zone and we know the letters that they represent. So we are going to obtain a message with 13 letters, okay? So now we only need to write the letter associated with each binary code. For instance, the binary code in zone 1 is 0001, so it corresponds to the letter B. And we can do that for each of the 13 zones, and we get a message with 13 letters, right? Good. And that message will reveal who's guilty.
So Ines, I will launch
now,
the poll.
yeah, you may launch the poll.
Oh, okay. Poll launched.
So, again,
Yeah, which you just should now try to write there you have a text box in
yeah,
which you
there's a
can,
text box there.
yeah, and you can try to fill it with the letters that correspond to the 13 zones.
Yeah, but since we really are short on time, there are only 30 minutes left. I would say that there is really no time for you to do that. Okay?
Yes.
So we will solve it for you. Free
Yeah.
question, okay? So what we're gonna do is we are going to reveal the answer, okay? The letters that we would obtain if we actually did the homework. Okay? So Bifecomalface. Now, who's Portuguese should probably understand what this is saying, but who doesn't know Portuguese probably doesn't understand anything at all. So now you should take this sentence. So these 13 letters represent a sentence with 3 words, which in Portuguese are beef com alface. So now you should go to Google Translate or some translator you prefer, okay? And you should translate this sentence to a language you understand. For instance, English, okay? And I would ask someone to write in the chat the English translation of this sentence. So you need to translate it from
That's correct.
Portuguese to English, and we already have the correct answer. So if you translate this from Portuguese to English, you get the word steak with leches. So who's the guilty person? Who kidnapped Cristiano Ronaldo? Let's see who can answer first. Okay, steak with lettuce. That's right. What now? Who should be arrested? We need to arrest someone. Okay, we have the
That's
correct
right.
answer. Exactly. It's row 3, the person 3. Yeah, and we have that little picture there. So, congratulations, mystery solved with the help of computer science. Let's move on and talk about something that's really important nowadays, which is, okay, so this is the guilty person. Now we're going to talk about digital communication and cryptography. So we are always texting our friends and we use social networks and all of that, but like who guarantees that a hacker is not spying on the communication line and reading our private messages? Who guarantees that a hacker is not watching this webinar right now without having access to it? Okay, so this is a serious problem nowadays: privacy and security in electronic communications. Fortunately, in applications like WhatsApp, They kind of give you the guarantee that the messages are end-to-end encrypted. Okay, so if you go to the security settings in WhatsApp, it says your messages and calls are secured with end-to-end encryption, which means WhatsApp and third parties can't read or listen to them. Whew, I feel better now. I feel more relaxed. But what does encryption actually mean? Well, the cryptography is precisely the study of techniques used for secure communication, so methods of hiding information to ensure that only those who send the message and those who receive it can read what is written there. And if somebody pops up in the middle and intercepts the message, the person won't understand anything because it is encrypted. So encryption is the process of hiding messages using a cipher or a code. If you look at the image on the right, you realize that the cipher is moving each letter one position forward. For instance, letter A is going to move to letter B is going to move to letter C is going to move to letter D, and so on until letter Z will map onto A again. Okay, so for instance, okay, so instead of writing A, we write B. Instead of writing V, we write W, and so on. Decryption is the opposite process, okay? So it's easier to recover the original information of an encrypted message. So how do we decipher a message that was encrypted with the previous cipher? So before, every letter moved one position forward, right? So A went to B. So if we want to undo that operation and recover the original message, we need to move each letter backwards, okay? So B will now go to A, and C will go to B, and D will go to C, and so on and so forth, okay? And these type of ciphers are called Caesar ciphers, which consists in moving or shifting each letter of the alphabet a certain number of positions. So in this example, we moved each letter one position forward, but we could move 3 or 4 or 17, whatever we wanted. And this technique was actually invented by Julius Caesar, a general who commanded Rome, because he wanted to prevent the information he sent to his soldiers in battle from being discovered by enemies. So cryptography is an old field, but it's really important nowadays. So now we are going to ask you to encrypt the message attack today. So you are going to take the message attack today, and you are going to move each letter one position forward. So A will go to B, T will go to U, and so on. Okay, just move each letter forward. And what do you get? So I would ask Luis to launch the poll, please.
All launched.
Perfect. For some reason, I can't answer it on my phone. Like,
Yeah, but you should.
can you answer it?
Yes, yes, yes.
Weird. Very well. Let's see how many answers we have. Okay, so 85 of you answered correctly. So it's option number B, okay? Option number B, which is BUUBDLUPEBZ. So attack today was transformed into this blah, 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 that nobody understands, okay? And that's the point of cryptography. You have something that everybody understands, and you want to transform it into something that nobody will understand unless the person knows the method, the technique that you used to cipher the message, okay? Very well. Now let's explore a different type of cipher, which consists of exchanging A with Z, B with X, V with Y, C with X, so on and so forth. So the first letter becomes the last one becomes the first, the second letter becomes the second last one, and the second last one becomes the second one, and so on and so forth. And now we will launch a poll and you should kind of discover what the ciphertext XLNKFGRMT is hiding. So what is the word that is being transmitted? Okay, so Paul launched.
Yeah.
It isn't very easy because not all exchanges are explicit here. Okay. You only need to look at the last three letters, right? So I, N, and G. If you quickly write the alphabet, you can um, sort of figure it out. Okay, so we already have some answers. And I think I will reveal the correct one. So the answer is computing, okay, computing. So we just, kind of look at the letter exchanges and you realize that the word is computing.
Yeah, and the second
And
answer
we
is
had,
correct. Yeah, the second answer is
yeah, it's
related
option
with.
B, second answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we have another question, which is there any letter that remains in the same position? And the answer is no, because the alphabet consists of an even number of letters. So there's no letter in the middle. Look, like there only exists a middle if you have an odd number of things, but the alphabet has an even number of letters, so there's no middle. So every letter is transformed into a different one. Last but not least, and like this is a real challenge. So someone encrypted a message by applying first the Caesar cipher and then the AZ cipher. Okay, so first you move each letter forward one position, and then you kind of exchange the letters with this cipher. Okay, so we do one thing first and then the other. And that person got this weird message. So what was the original message? Now, you may not have, Louise, I would ask you to launch the poll, please.
Yeah.
You may not have time to answer it, but we are talking about functional composition here, okay? So Caesar cipher is basically a function and the AZ cipher is another function. So we are simply going to apply one function and then apply another function, and that's functional composition. And it's a really powerful tool, not only in mathematics, but also in computing, especially in the functional programming paradigm, okay? So first we do Caesar and then the other one. I will reveal the answer. So the original message was mathematics. So what do you have to do to sort of decrypt the message? So since we do Caesar cipher and then AZ cipher, then if we want to recover the original one, we need to move the orientation of the arrows. Okay, so we need to decipher AZ and then we need to decipher Caesar. It's like when you are putting on your shoes, first you put you first you you put the sock, and then you put the shoe. But then if you want to remove it, first you remove the shoe and then you remove the sock. Okay, so the order is reversed. So you need to first apply the AZ cipher. It's a symmetric cipher, so you decipher AZ. And then you need to apply the reverse of Caesar cipher. So move that letter one position backwards. Okay, and you get the message mathematics. Okay, um, we're sorry that you don't have more time to think about this, but the webinar is being recorded, so you can think about it more slowly at home, quietly, about this stuff. Now we're going to talk a little bit about algorithms. We are really short on time, but it's still an important part. We have talked a lot about data representation, but obviously algorithms are also important. And so computers are really fast doing almost anything. In particular, they can add a list of numbers very quickly, really very quickly. But how does it do that? What algorithm does it use? Well, there are several options, and we are going to discuss one possible algorithm, okay? So now we need to sort of understand how we can teach the computer to do things. Okay, how do we do this? How is this possible? And we need to state very precisely what we want the computer to do, because it is not a smart human like us, and if we aren't rigorous, it won't understand. Okay, so we really need to think very carefully about what we want to communicate to the computer and write it in a way that it understands. Okay. And that's what algorithms are for. And an algorithm basically is a recipe or a strategy to achieve a certain goal. If you want to bake a cake, you follow a certain recipe. And if you want to win a game, you follow a certain strategy, okay? And that's the intuitive idea of algorithms. So how are you going to teach the computer to add all the values of a few numbered cards in the deck? Okay, so we have a list of numbers and we want an algorithm to do this efficiently. How can we do that? Luis, do you want me to proceed while you keep answering the comments?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So we will write an algorithm which we'll call sum. So we will give our algorithm a name, which is sum. And to understand better what we are going to do, we are going to show you a video which shows how this algorithm works to compute the sum of the numbers in the list 1, 5, 3, 4. Okay, so please pay attention to this video. So we start with the list. Okay, that's our input. And then we are going to divide this list into two parts. Okay, the first part we have 1, 5, and in the second one we have 3, 4. And then we're going to do it again. So again, we are going to split each list into two parts. Okay, and now we have lists with only one number, and we're going to compute its sum. And then in order to compute the sum of the other lists, we just need to add up the numbers that are below. So the sum of the list 1, 5 is 1 plus 5, for instance, which is 6. And now the sum of the big list, it's just the sum of 6 and 7, which is 13. And that's our output. This video was a little fast-paced, but the idea is we have a hard problem, and so we are going to divide that problem into smaller, easier, simpler problems. And once we reach a stage where it is really straightforward to solve the problem, for instance, it's really straightforward to compute the sum of a list with a single number because it's just the number that's on the list. Once we reach that stage, we kind of go backwards, okay? And we climb up the tree and we will successively get the answers that we are looking for, okay? So now we're going to see how we can actually transform this into an algorithm. Okay, um, so this can be solved using the divide and conquer strategy, as we mentioned earlier. So we teach the computer to solve basic parts of the problem and then to decompose the not basic parts of the problem into basic problems that it already knows how to solve. So what's the simplest possible case? Well, it's the sum of a list with just one number, okay? So if we have a list with just one number, what is the sum of all numbers in that list? Well, for us, this is obvious. It's the number that's on the list. But the computer isn't born with this knowledge, almost like we do. Well, we aren't born with this knowledge either, but you understand what I want to say. Okay, so how are we going to express it? We're going to say, hey, computer, the sum of a list with a single number A is equal to that number A. Now, A can represent any number. It can be 3, it can be 5, it can be 227. This is general, okay? So A is a parameter, a variable, okay? So the sum of a list with a single number is that number. That's the first step. That's the easy case. That's the simplest possible case. Well, not the simplest one, because we could start with an empty list, but let's forget empty lists for now. And now that we've taught the computer how to add a list with a single number, what should we do next? So we could say, okay, now computer, let's move on to lists with two numbers. Say that you have two numbers A and B, so you have a sequence with number A and number B. Then the sum is going to be equal to A plus B. Okay, now the computer knows this and can compute the sum of a list with two numbers. And then we can say, okay, so now we're going to teach him how to add three numbers. Say A, B, and C is A plus B plus C. But come on, we can't keep on doing this forever, right? If I want to sum the sum of a list with 1 million numbers, I can't just keep writing this on the computer, okay? So we need a general strategy to solve everything, okay? We need a strategy for the general case. And so what's the overall strategy? If the list has a single number, then the result is that number. That's done. Very easy. Great. Now, what if the list has two or more numbers? Well, we can divide it into two other lists and add the sum of them both. Okay, so if I have 1, 5, 3, 4, I can compute the sum of 1, 5, and then I can compute the sum of 3, 4, and then I add those numbers. Okay, and what are these list 1 and list 2 here? So list 1 is kind of the first half of the list, and list 2 is the second half. So we are dealing with smaller lists. And we keep doing this process of dividing the lists into two parts, splitting them into two parts, until we reach a point where we have a list with just one element, and we already know how to solve that basic problem. Okay, so how do we write these algorithms? We're going to do that, and I would please ask Luis to write in the chat the link to
Yes.
this online Jupyter notebook.
Yes, you
Okay,
can
so
find there, yes, the link for a binder that will allow you to do some stuff in Jupyter. At the same time, Inez is also showing you uh, how to do that.
Yeah, so if you could please open that link. It may take a while, okay? It may take a while, but worry not, because I am going to share my screen and we are going to do these together, okay? Yeah, the binder may take some time to pop up. You need to be patient, but then you can play with it later. So I'm going to share my screen. Where are you? Okay, here you are. Da-na-na. Okay, so let me put this a little bigger, right? So I'm just going to.
Yeah, one
All right.
important thing. So, Ines, before that, so for all of you that want to try this through the link that I've shared with you, it's important that you should execute that first cell that Ines showed
Yeah. You
right
need to
now.
execute
Okay.
this first cell, okay?
Yeah, by putting the mouse there and then choose
You can click
play on
here,
top of it. Yeah,
play.
on top of
Yeah,
you.
whenever you want to execute a cell, you just press play here, okay? Or shift and enter simultaneously. But the play
Yeah.
button is more it's easier that way. Okay, so say we wanna compute the sum of this list, okay, which has numbers 3, 2, 5, 6, 1, and 9. So we're going to divide that list into two parts. We are going to split that list, okay? So if I ask the computer to split this list, it is going to answer me this. So it's a pair, okay? An ordered pair. Whose first component is 3 to 5, okay, which is the first half, and the second one is 619, which is the second half. Now, you may ask, what if we have an odd number of elements? Well, whatever. Say we have 3, 2, 5, 6, 1. So this has 5 elements. We can just say, okay, put the first two in the first part, and then you consider the remaining 3 elements as these sublists. Okay, so our split function here does this. So it takes a list and it divides it into a first part and a second part. So the part 1 of the list and part 2 of the list.
Which are both lists as well. Okay.
Yeah. So this is a pair of lists. So now if I ask computer, what is the part 1 of this list? Okay, so I'm going to hit the play button. It is going to tell me 3 to 5. So 3 to 5, part 1, the blue part. And now if I ask it what is the part 2, so the second half of the list, is going to answer 619. Okay, so 619. Basically, part 1 just gets this first component, and part 2 outputs the second component of the pair. Okay, now this function split part 1 and part 2 were written by us. They aren't exactly a part of Oscar library, but just because it's simpler this way. Otherwise, I mean, we are already short on time. We would be even shorter on time. Anyway, I just want to finish by showing you that the algorithm actually works. So we have two cases. So either our list as a single number, say A, and if A is our number, then the result is going to be simply A, like the sum of lists with a single number is that number. That's not much we can do. Or we can have like a general list, which we are going to call list. And if we have a list, any list, what we do, well, we split it into two, okay, the first half, which is part 1 list, and the second half, which is part 2 list, okay? And this is our algorithm. Like, that's it. There are no for loops or while loops or any complicated stuff. It's a program with 2 lines of code, and it's super intuitive. And I'm going to show you that it actually works. So I'm going to ask the computer to compute the sum of this list of numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 4 is 10, plus 5 is 15. And it's going to tell me that it is indeed 15. And I can now ask him the sum of all numbers between 1 and 1000, okay? And it's going to tell me that it's this number. So this is a general program that works for any list of numbers. And it's super simple. Only 2 lines. So this divide and conquer strategy is a very powerful idea. Now, the homework for you is to write a program to compute the product of all numbers in a list. So instead of the sum of all numbers, we want the product. And then the second homework is to write a program to compute the number of elements in a list. Okay? That's your homework, and we hope that you do it because it's very good for your brain. Okay? And
Yeah.
now I will shut up forever. No, not forever, because if you have any questions, feel free to ask them.
Just a small help for what Ines is asking you to do is that the pattern that you will use on those 2 other algorithms will be exactly the same. Okay. So, but feel free to use the link that we have shared with you in order to play a little bit with these concepts, and you will see that will be very, very easy for you to build and to finish this exercise.
Yeah, if you want, I can reveal the answer, but I think that would spoil the fun. I want people to think because they are capable of doing it.
Well, with respect to Python resources, okay, so again, I remember that what I've said, this is a series of 4 webinars, okay, and the last webinar, the 4th one, will be the one that will be completely Python-oriented training course, mini training course. We'll have only 3 hours as well, but will be a Python training course, yeah. Thank you very much to all of you that is already saying goodbye.
Yeah,
And by
but
the
feel
way,
free to ask any questions that you may have.
yeah, and we'll then share with you in the next few days a questionnaire in order for you to answer with everything that we'll ask you about this webinar in particular. Okay. So if there is no further questions, we'll close the webinar and see you probably next week, because next week we'll also have another webinar.
Yeah, at the same time, at the same period, so 4/7, on Wednesday, 19th of April. So see you there, and thank you so much for the wonderful feedback.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you
about the
so much.
homework. So Matthew, about the homework, okay? It's just please just don't submit anything, okay? Just play with it, and
Yeah,
then in
I
the
was kidding.
questionnaire,
It's not homework. It's not
yeah.
homework. It's just
But
if you wanna try, if you wanna
Video.
think for yourself, okay?
yeah,
About the video.
yes, and we'll share the video. Yes, it will be available soon, between today and tomorrow. And with respect to the homework, yes, but in the questionnaire that we will then share with you during this week, we will then put probably the question in order for you to know if you do your homework with this binder that we have shared. Okay, so thank you. Have a nice day, and see you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very, very
Thanks.
much. Goodbye
Okay,
and
bye
see you
bye.
soon.
Bye
There's
bye.
a question. There's a question.
Code behind. Code behind the binder. Yes, if you know how to use the binder, you can go to the terminal and you can see the Insico ASCII file. It's a very simple file with just a few functions, but you can see, yes. It's a
Yeah, you
little
can
tricky,
see
but you can
how
see
the
it.
split function was built.
Yeah.
and how the part 1 and part 2 functions were built.
Yeah, that's right.
How we find the
Okay.
video?
Oh, the video will be shared with you, so we'll send then an email to you saying exactly how you can download the video. But probably it will also be available in the Cisco Net Academy website that we are using and sharing with you.
Yeah, in any case, I will write here the InSeco email. So if you have any question, you can just send us an email. I think that may be useful. I'm going to pin
Yeah.
the message. Okay. So that's our email. If you have any doubt about when will the next webinar is, or if you have any doubt about something we talked about in this webinar, I guess you feel free to send us an email. That's all right, I guess, Luis.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, so finally, if there is no further questions, again,
Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.